Cool. No problems. Good afternoon, viewers, as well as listeners. Welcome to the Government Information Center and today's discussions where we are going to engage on the commemorations of World Tourism Day. That's Namibia is going to be joining the rest of the world. And of course, we are also going to discuss issues pertaining to tourism in general. And to help us unpack this, we are joined by a panel of experts. First and foremost, we have Philon Kwakusus, that I can't say the surname, but welcome, Philon.
Thank you.
And secondly, we have Gita Pesot from the Hospitality Association of Namibia. Welcome,
Thank
Gita.
you very much. Thanks.
Very good. To start our conversation, I want to firstly speak to Philon. Just to help us understand what has been the evolution of tourism since independence. What has been some of the transformations that we have seen, especially when it comes to government policies?
Okay. Thank you so much. It's really, really nice to be back here again, once again. One might be safe to say after COVID, because all the measures are down, we still need to look after ourselves, but yeah, really nice to be here. So looking at the bigger picture of tourism, you know, Namibia already one of the first countries to have incorporated the conservation aspects in its constitution. Also gave rise to tourism development, sustainable tourism development. So with the arrival of conservancies, as per the ordinance of 1996, a lot of conservancies started to have, because tourists were coming, but you know, how can I say, participation of locals were not really so strong. So with the establishment of communal conservancies, a lot of conservancies started to have joint venture partnerships with private investors to participate in the tourism sector. And also with the development of the drafting and development of the national tourism policy, you know, that also expanded, increasing participation of previously disadvantaged Namibians into the tourism space. So looking at the trajectory of tourism development, one can say that from 200,000 tourists that were recorded around back in 1996, we're talking about 1.6, and the numbers were just going up. So, Namibia is a destination, well sought after destination, although, recession and all those difficult, circumstances around the world were taking place. The tourism numbers in Namibia were always increasing. And so just before COVID, we were talking about 1.6 million tourists, and also as the GDP contributor, tourism was fast becoming probably number 2, number 1. But when COVID hit, we went back down to almost 0, and then we are picking up again. And as we, the outlook is very positive, because the sector is saying some of them are back to previous levels, and even maybe greater than prior to COVID. So tourism is looking up.
Tourism is looking up indeed.
Yes.
Gita, you are from the sector yourself. Philon is attesting to the fact that it's looking up after COVID-19. But from your perspective, how has tourism grown since independence, especially from the hospitality industry's perspective?
Well, I represent a company called Hospitality Association of Namibia. It was founded just before independence, with some 16 members, and currently, and it is a voluntary organization, so hotels, lodges, guest farms, all the accommodation service providers, they join us voluntarily, and at the moment we've just got short of 400 members. Just goes to show how big tourism has become since independence. We represent something like 7,000 rooms or 50,000 beds on a daily basis in the tourism sector, and that's not including all the people that are registered with the Namibia Tourism Board. So tourism has, as Philon rightly stated, really established itself as one of the key pillars of our economy, and something that I still find difficult to accept that it hasn't been recognized as such by many of us in Namibia, both private and public sector, the impact that tourism makes on not only GDP contribution but also employment creation. And Philon so nicely explained the whole evolution of taking tourism to the people and making sure that Namibians can also engage in the tourism industry through a very unique product that Namibia developed in 1996, yeah, when the conservancy policy was designed, where it's become a very unique attraction point where you can actually immerse yourself in the ways of life of people in the regions. Namibia has become very popular for that, and also the way that we sort of engage people and nature and the wildlife that we have in one of those experiential, immersing tourism products. It's become world renowned. We're one of the most popular countries for real authentic tourism, because we take people to the people and the environment, and also protecting our environment by showcasing the very fragile and intricate sort of complexities of our environment. Currently, obviously, I mean, there's always two sides to the story. Namibia is endowed with so many riches. We don't only have the wildlife, we've got the resources above and underground as well. And at the moment, there's this sort of balancing act that we all need to make sure that we do for future sustainability of tourism, is that we balance the act between mining tourism, for instance, or mining and the tourism industry. But for now, I think Namibia has really showcased or positioned itself as a destination that really knows how to project itself in terms of that rugged, soulful, liberating experience that we offer the people, that we at least promise them when they come here.
Good. Staying with you, Gita, what are some of these those pertinent challenges? We have mentioned of COVID-19, but what are some of those bottlenecks that actually impacting the growth of tourism, especially from a private perspective?
Tourism is most probably one of the most competitive industries out there. So when we go out into the market and we're talking about the destinations that we actually sell our product to, we are stand in line with at least 200 other destinations, including the Caribbean and the Mediterranean and Australia and the Far East. They all want to have the same sort of part of the pie of the international traveler that wants to spend their money outside their own places of residence. So we have to compete, and obviously we have to compete not only by product but also by price. That's why it's always a challenge for us to make sure that whatever we do in terms of product development actually has value for money, because that's, and the international tourism market is very, very price sensitive. Namibia, we need to compare ourselves, and very often it's difficult to compare our tourism product with the likes of Botswana or South Africa, to our southern neighbor, because we do share a lot of similarity in terms of the experiences or the products that we offer, wildlife, safaris, landscapes, but we always have to find that special niche, and that's where the marketing skills come in. Also in terms of budgets, we have a huge challenge in that we compete with people that have millions and multiple hundreds of millions of budgetary spend as a nation, as a destination, to market their product. And Namibia really is not very well financed when it comes to destination marketing. So that's a key challenge, but I think private sector has stepped in there to do some kind of key product marketing that, when we go out into the industry or into the international arena, we market Namibia first, and then we sell our own little Gidas Lodge or Filon's Lodge. So destination marketing is what we do together. But one of the challenges is to really, focus dedicated national drive behind destination marketing. And then it's also preserving what we're selling. We sell this untouched natural beauty. And we will have to be careful to not reach a point at some point where we're not able to offer that rugged, untouched beauty anymore because we've oversold on our product. Some of the beautiful flagships that we still have, Sossus Flay and Etosha, being in tourism month now, September being the key tourism month, or August, September actually, we already hear a lot of complaints about those tourism flagships being overrun by tourists, and that you can't enjoy the natural beauty that we actually invited the people to come and enjoy here. So those are some of the key challenges. And then also, we also fighting for access to certain areas where other key economic interests, such as mining or other economic sectors, also have an interest in. So it's that balance that we need to strike between, keeping certain areas maybe ring fence for tourism, or opening up to everybody, and comparing whose interests are bigger.
Very good. Filon, just to touch on what Gita have spoken about, she has spoken about some challenges that includes product marketing, but also the preservation of natural resources. We know poaching is one of the biggest challenge in the country. What are some of the interventions that government is putting in place to ensure that these challenges are addressed?
Okay, so the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, as the in charge of tourism development in Namibia, we have developed the National Sustainable Tourism Growth and Development Strategy, and we have recently developed the Tourism Recovery Strategy. So with the National Sustainable Tourism Growth Strategy, we wanted to kind of do like an overhaul of the tourism sector itself. Talk about institutional development, set institutions in place. With that, we started with the Tourism Advisory Council, we started with the Interministerial Council and Regional Tourism Forum. So the idea with that is that tourism should start at the ground level, at the grassroots. And challenges, opportunities should then be communicated to the Tourism Advisory and the Interministerial Council, on which the leadership of the ministry serves. And then, of course, the information comes directly to the minister and to the other leadership, to the cabinet for decision making and so on. So these interventions have worked to a certain level. I can't say it completely, kicked in place and started working, but at least we have seen that at regional level, like the Zambezi, Hardab, Erongo, the regional tourism forums are headed by the regional governors as the chairpersons of these forums, and a lot of decisions are made on these forums, and new products are being developed. So at the institutional side of things are really working very well. But as Gida just touched on, finance and budgeting is always a challenge of doing, sustainable tourism development. If you look, for instance, at the structure of the directorate responsible for tourism development in Namibia, although for so many years, tourism has been included as one of the key pillars and as priority sectors for job creation and poverty alleviation. But investment in the tourism structure has never taken place. So, or as much as the government made that commitment, resource allocation has never been done. So, also, just to address some of these issues, the minister, deputy minister, the executive director within the Ministry of Environment and Tourism continues to make this plight to the Ministry of Finance, and also this year's finance budget defending. The ministry has really taken a stance to really bring these challenges across, because like Gida was saying, you want to grow tourism, you want tourists to come to Namibia, yet you give NTB, the National Marketing Agency, 4 million to market the country. That's peanuts. Even a province like in South Africa, 60 million would probably be a basic budget for a province to market the country. So having our national marketing agency underfunded makes it really, really difficult for us to number one, grow the domestic market, because we can't do all those domestic marketing campaigns that we could have done. Number two, we can't do regional marketing. As you can probably see, we don't have an office in Oshakati or Ngwediva. We don't have an office in Katimba Mulilo. These offices could, as much as they collect revenue and bring the standards of the establishments in those areas to a certain level, they could have also served with the regional marketing in Botswana, those regional African countries. So budgeting is really a big issue. But then with the national recovery strategy, there are certain interventions, strategic interventions that have been put in place to see, in the absence of funding, what are the things that we can do in the meantime. And the ministry is really focusing on aggressive marketing, online marketing, because digital transformation is kind of a solution to challenges with financing. So we are really doing what we can with what we have. So yeah, those are some of the interventions that the ministry is currently doing.
Great. There is a popular saying, apparently, do more with less, and I think that is the situation that fits the country, based on the description that you just gave us, Philon. Now, moving forward, there has been disturbing reports of violent attacks on tourists, and especially in different regions. Windhoek is one of them. How does this affect tourism in general, Gita?
Huge concern, Romeo, because it actually affects Namibia's image as the safe, welcoming and friendly destination. I think the core problem of it is not so much poverty, and we do know that there are a lot of people who talk about, the food insecurity, and many people in Namibia going hungry, so it's almost as though we can understand why people start grabbing from those that have. But to me, the biggest concern is that many of us Namibians do not realize the actual value that tourism brings to our country. If only we had that understanding of the value that the foreigner that comes here and brings extra cash. So it's not your and my salary that goes back into the economy, but it's an added sort of impetus into our economy that helps us all sort of grow, not only Namibia's economy, but build schools and really care for the social upliftment of our people. If only more Namibians were aware of the key value of tourism, even if you're not employed by tourism directly, but the benefit that tourism brings, then I think we could already see a lessening of crime. So to me, what I'm missing, or what I would love to see, is a huge national drive to boost tourism, to make every Namibian understand. And we've had that. I mean, Han, many years ago in 2009, we started with a campaign called Tourism Awareness, where we went to the high schools, the grade 8s and 9s, to say, do you know about tourism? Would you like to build a career in tourism? And the level of ignorance that we found out there, to say that we don't understand tourism, we don't understand why people come here, where they have a bed at home, that kind of thing. and the sort of the buy-in that we got, the traction, actually we should have kept on that momentum. Maybe we would have been in a different place. But it is of huge concern, and it has reached a stage where many of our key destinations or our markets, being Central Europe, they've already changed their travel advisory, sort of keeping up the red flag. Namibia has not that name as a safe destination anymore. We actually sort of being put on the same level as South Africa, unfortunately, in terms of crime. It's hugely damaging, and it basically reverts all the efforts that we made in terms of marketing that, you know, we said Namibia is a safe place. We really went out full force to try to get people back into Namibia, and we're there. I mean, we talked about statistics, and it was so encouraging to see both in July and August that we actually exceeded the room occupancy rates of 2019. So it seems as though we've really come through COVID and we are growing tourism, like Philan alluded to. But something like crime could really, really wipe out all the successes that we were able to record. And that's why our appeal in tourism has been for a national focus on the prevention of crime, both from our citizens to the law enforcement authorities, private sector and government together. A good start has been made by one of the companies in the industry, Gondwana, with the launch of the Tourism Heroes campaign, where we call out to the Namibian public as well to look out for people that really do good or that could prevent negative developments that would harm the tourism industry. And I think if we all shout out to say, become your Namibian tourism ambassador. If you see some strangers on the street, don't rob them, help them, guide them, welcome them, and they will be willing to spend their money. You don't need to rob it. They'll spend it gladly.
Very good. Philan, what has been government's intervention on some of these violent attacks? Has something been done from the ministry's perspective? But also, what is your initial reaction to all of this?
Yeah, so like Kida just put it there, it's really a big concern. And from the ministry side, we have engaged various stakeholders, Ministry of Safety and Security. The ministry has engaged the national, the tourism unit in all the towns, especially through the regional tourism forums, and just to try to see how can we really close these gaps, how do we improve safety of our visitors. So yeah, that's what the ministry is continuing to do. So it's really a concern. So the ministry is really concerned. So and doing all that we can. Of course, it's not our key mandate to develop safety strategies and things like that. So, but we are engaging various, like the city of Windhoek, the city police, the Nampol tourist protection unit. So that's what the ministry is currently doing. Yeah.
Okay, good. Jita spoke about something very important. Perhaps we need to look as a country at the root causes of this problem. And I think she spoke about poverty lines. And this is a challenge for the country. Now, as the ministry, how are we then engaged in, of course, with other stakeholders in ensuring that the poverty lines are actually reduced, but also in educating members of the public so that they can be aware of the significance of tourism, which in my understanding, it goes beyond your personal needs. It is the revenue that the country generates that forms part of the bigger picture. So how are we engaged in this?
Okay, so as I said earlier, the regional tourism forums, those are really important forums that, create awareness about tourism, the benefits of tourism, and also bringing benefits to the local communities. So the ministry currently has established about 6 regional tourism forums, and we intend to do this across the entire country, because some of the key action points or activities from these regions is that they need to create awareness about tourism, the importance of tourism. Why do tourists travel? What do they bring to our communities? So because, the grassroots level communities serve the communal conservancies, the traditional authorities. They serve on these regional tourism forums. So through that, we are trying to educate the local communities about the benefits of tourism and just the sensitivity of the whole sector, and see how we can develop strategies to curb crime against tourists. Also, the ministry every year, organizes the World Tourism Day celebrations, and through these celebrations, we also bring the importance of tourism to the rest of Namibia, and also benefits that comes from tourism, how the communities can prepare themselves to benefit from tourism development. So those are some of the measures that the ministry has in place to create awareness about tourism and to, of course, address the crime issues on the regional level.
If I may just intervene there,
Yep.
Many people always ask, especially the youngsters, when they hear that, tourism, there's so much money that is spent in tourism and for tourism, they obviously would want to become involved as well and say, but how do I get engaged in tourism? I don't have the money to set up a lodge or to build a hotel. They always see the sort of the general tourism pictures that are shared internationally. And I said the charm of a national tourism product is not to copy what the rest of the world has. We need to find those unique elements, and it can become as basic as, if you are in one of the regions, and I believe that the minister is very keen to roll out tourism sort of fora in all the 14 regions, and the same is being done now for the tourism police units. But if you have a little, and the classical example that I think too little people have taken charge of, in an area where there are tourism lodges or tourism activities. If you as a little entrepreneur want to get engaged with tourism, offer a product like a donkey cart ride, for instance, because I believe that all Namibians that have grown up in the rural area would have had access to a donkey cart as the means of transport, because they didn't have money for a car, fuel-driven car. Now the electrical cars are coming on board as well. But for a tourist to come to Namibia and be exposed to an experience such as unique as a donkey cart ride in Namibia, it doesn't take much funding, it doesn't take much money, but it would sort of create a unique experience that tourists would come back for more. So it's easy to get involved in tourism. The only thing that you need is the right attitude. You need to be willing to host and to give, to serve people. And I think that's where sometimes we misjudge the role or the whole modus operandi of tourism. I've heard young people say, no, Gerard, my parents have done enough serving people. We don't want to work in tourism because it's like serving. And to us, I mean, if you are a good waitress, for instance, you can make it. You can build a career anywhere in the world, from New York to Shanghai to Sydney or wherever. Because in tourism, you can actually find your niche, irrespective of whether you like marketing, administrative, or you're a people's person. We need a lot of people that are people-orientated in tourism, because despite all the technical advances, you cannot replace the human element, and that's key. And I've heard from Harden is actually focused on the whole aspect of skills development, because the whole world seems to have run out of skills in tourism, and many people have come to scout for talent here in Namibia. The people have been taken, up to 60 people from Namibia have been taken to work in the amusement park, Hansa Park in Germany, and they've come back for more. They say that the charm of the Namibian people is something that makes us unique, and we need to look at that. We need to, it doesn't take much in terms of financing to build a tourism product. All you need to be able to do is to give of yourself and your human interaction. And a bit of innovation like donkey cart rides. I don't know why people haven't thought about that yet.
Good. I think you have brought up a very important topic, a very important segment of tourism. Many people, they say tourism is not affordable. It is simply impossible for a poor person to get involved in tourism. They need startup capital or investment and all of that. And I have also listened to one discussion that the young people that are graduating are actually sitting at home without jobs. But of course, they can't go into tourism because of the amount of money it requires for them to start up these businesses. Now, what is our way forward? Philon, I think I've spoken about how one can start small. Is there any funding mechanism perhaps from government, or should we rather just start small and grow from there?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So maybe just a head start or head giveaway. The ministry has, for the past 5 years, tried to establish a tourism fund. Because like you say, some people, young people are saying, let's just put it this way. The funding institutions do not really understand the activities of tourism sector, the value of tourism, the small sectors of tourism. So like Gida said, these are things like a donkey cart ride. This is like a cultural walk. This is like a traditional information, kind of like a homestay place, Those small things are not really well understood by the funding institutions, because some of the minimum criteria for funding starts with 150,000. But some of these guys, they really only need the 15,000. They only need the 20,000 to start, or just a connection, a networking session with maybe some of the established institutions. So the ministry is really trying within the Directorate of Tourism to come up with a tourism fund that can start these small projects. But in the absence of that, there are various platforms, like the regional councils. They have like a small funding that they do. Ministry of Gender has a small funding that they have. So, and Ministry of Trade has equipment funding, and also the Namibia Investment Promotion Board has also come up with some of these grooming, SME grooming, and capacity building programs. So in the absence of actual funding from the ministry side, there are other opportunities that the youth can really, or entrepreneurs in the tourism space can make use of. So Namibia has really, to a certain extent, done well in terms of creating those platforms, opportunities for the young people. But as I said in the beginning also, the challenge is also an institutional one, where the ministry doesn't have tourism officers in all the regions. So if we, for instance, had tourism officers in many other regions, these guys could then work with the local economic development officers within the local authorities to see what are the opportunities that there are. Also, just studying these regional tourism forums, one of the stumbling blocks is the presence of the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism on a tourism level in those regions. So these are some of the challenges, but although those challenges exist, opportunities also exist equally. So, yeah.
Okay. Jita, are there any opportunities for mentorship, especially in the sector that you are involved in, for young people?
We this year focused very, very strongly on skills development and opportunity creation for the youngsters, because we still lack the sort of attraction from young people. And I sometimes think that they have not got the baseline information to actually understand tourism to the fullest. The sort of the key career focuses are usually on mining or engineering or nursing or medicine. So tourism has failed to actually lure the interest of the young people to actually make them interested in tourism. And then and we're working together with the Namibia Training Authority in terms of job attachments, or sort of a shadow program where they can actually, even before they make their final choice for a career, that they can actually have a look into a tourism operation, just to understand, is this my part of world, or am I rather sort of a back office person that does financing or administration? So all in terms of internships, job attachments, job shadowing, apprentice program. We've also noticed that although, and I must commend our tertiary institutions, the UNAMs and the NUSs of this world, the IUMs, they have beautiful tourism programs, but to me, the focus is always wrong, because from the outset they call that program a tourism hospitality management degree or diploma. That basically puts the young Namibian under the impression that once I finish this 3 or 4 year course, I will be a manager. but they've never worked in tourism. And, you know, we need to build up a tourism workforce that has the full understanding and the willpower to actually service this industry. And it's all about people and serving of industries. And that's what we're currently engaging in with all the stakeholders, be it the NTA and all the training institutions as well, to prepare for sort of an uptake of tourism careers in tourism that have the right attitude and the will to push us forward.
Okay, very good. Philon, moving forward, 27 September is World Tourism Day, and I think that's the reason why we are here. Please help us understand the origins of this day. Why is it important? What led to its establishment?
Okay. So Namibia is party to many statutory bodies, and so are we also to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. The World Tourism Day was discussion started around 1979, and the day was officially adopted in 1980. And the main idea with this World Tourism Day was actually to create awareness about the importance of tourism, the benefits of tourism, and also the role that tourism plays in terms of implementing or achieving the sustainable development goals. And so Namibia became party to the World Tourism Organization around 1997 officially. And since then, we have also joined the rest of the world in celebrating the World Tourism Day. And of course, the aim is the same. It consists the same. It's celebrating, creating awareness about tourism. And so every year has a theme. And specifically for this year, the theme is tourism and green investments. Last year it was Rethink Tourism, simply because it was after COVID, we had to rethink about tourism. And also with that, Namibia also has a local theme that it adopts. So this year we have adopted the similar theme that we had last year, which is like heritage and cultural tourism, promoting heritage and cultural tourism as a means towards achieving sustainable tourism development. So with that, of course, promote cultural and heritage products and see how Namibia can sensitize packaging of cultural and heritage products for local communities to benefit from tourism. So that's why every year we celebrate the World Tourism Day on the 27th of September.
Okay. Yeah. Gita, is there any involvement by the Hospitality Association of Namibia in the celebration or commemoration of this day?
Well, September also marks sort of almost the peak of our tourism high season. So in terms of tourism, we are actually celebrating our successes and are very, very busy. So there's no time for extra celebrations. We actually, in carrying out our duty, are celebrating Tourism Day, and it's become a tourism week and almost a tourism quarter. But to me, it's so poignant to see that World Tourism Day always is just at the end almost of Namibia's National Heritage Week, and Philon just alluded to it just now. This year, the choice of themes just speak towards Namibia's being abreast of world developments, because first of all, the International Tourism Day celebration this year is under green investment theme, and all we talk about currently here in Namibia is green hydrogen, green energy, going green, that kind of thing. So it speaks to where Namibia is in terms of developing its product, not only tourism, but our development sort of agenda going forward. And last week's Tourism Heritage Week that we celebrated was under the motto Namibia's Heritage and Culture, based on a rock-solid foundation, and it was all about, you know, Namibians coming together and really honouring what we have in terms of our heritage and, you know, rock paintings, our long ancestral heritage that we have here is also a huge tourism attraction. So we always take what we build on in terms of Heritage Week into the tourism week, almost tourism day on the 27th of September. And the themes that we have is so much part of our tourism product that we sell. So, you know, visiting Spitzkoppe or Twyfelfontein as our first national heritage site, UNESCO accredited heritage site, is one of the key tourism products that we have and that we are proud of. And I wonder sometimes how many Namibians actually know about these sites. You know, we sell it to the world. Many tourists go there, and National Heritage Council is also one of our key partners in that. And I know that there were discussions now with the access to heritage sites and the fees to be paid, etc. But it's all about us appreciating the very, very unique elements that Namibia has in terms of its offering. And it comes together so beautifully in the month of September and culminating in World Tourism Day on the 27th, where we really celebrate the uniqueness of Namibia, both in terms of its heritage, culture, and the diversity of its people.
Great. But Jita, do you think as a country we are doing enough to maximize the potential that is in both heritage and cultural tourism?
I don't think so, to be quite honest, because many of our people don't know. There's a lot of ignorance still, and then we don't appreciate it. I mean, we've seen that not only Namibians, maybe they're ignorant of it, but we also have some guests that do not appreciate the sites that we have and that would lit campfires just under the rocks of these rock engravings that we have in Little Spitzkoppe, for instance. So I think there's still lots of work to be done in terms of elevating those ancestral heritage sites that we have. I know that the world over, I mean, UNESCO is celebrating all the heritage sites, and we do have certain of these sites here in Namibia that we as Namibians don't treasure enough and maybe don't expose enough and protect enough to be able to really, you know, maximize their potential.
Good. Philon, how far is the ministry in terms of intervening and maximizing this potential that we are speaking about that exists in heritage tourism? I know that you as a ministry has been working with UNESCO to this. How is that progressing?
Okay, so last year we started with training of tour guides and also training of communities in terms of sustainability pledges, these sustainable development, of course, part of the sustainable development goals. So the agenda of the ministry is to work really closely with some of these some of the stakeholders that are directly responsible for heritage and culture. That starts with UNESCO, Ministry of Information, Arts and Culture, Heritage Council, and of course the private sector, as it relates to areas where they operate, and of course some of these products are found in the areas in which they operate. So the ministry is really supporting some of these interventions, and also formalization of the National Heritage Council, let's not say formalization, but also strengthening the National Heritage Council, and of course negotiations that take place with the Heritage Council, taking responsibility of management and operation of some of the heritage sites. The ministry really supports some of these efforts. And we've also started to really do benchmarking. The Deputy Minister has recently done some benchmarking exercises in Botswana, Zimbabwe, and so forth, just to see how do they really link heritage, culture, and tourism. And we have also tried to benchmark and implement one such event or celebration of the culture, and of course through that preservation of culture, and that's none other than the Makgadikgadi epic. I'm not sure if you know about that, but it's a celebration of the cultural heritage around the salt pans. And so in Namibia, we are trying to establish a Totha Carnival that celebrates the pans in the northern areas. And we try to make this an annual event just to create awareness about the cultural importance of these pans. And of course, through that, maybe see the traditional stories that can be told, traditional dancing, and sitting around the fire and just do some ritual storytelling, and so that we can revive the culture and heritage, and also see how to preserve this culture. So the ministry is really looking at this aspect of cultural heritage preservation. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Jita, as we draw towards the conclusion of this discussion, one of the elements of tourism that I think we did not touch is basically domestic tourism. As we celebrate World Tourism Day, a lot of people might expect, we are celebrating, so the prices are going to go down. Will we have any specials for World Tourism Day for Namibians?
Well, seeing that World Tourism Day is the day after tomorrow, I hope that people have put in their bookings. And I can guarantee at the moment, looking at the international trends, international tourists are still very, very numerous here in Namibia because it's a high season, so I doubt whether there'll be specials for Wednesday. But tourism doesn't only happen overnight, and it's not only the 27th. Actually, it's just one of the days that we call tourism, but Namibians are actually encouraged to make tourism part of their daily lives. And while I was listening to Philo now talking about us preserving our cultural heritage and celebrating that, I think the Ministry of Education would also have a big role to play, because we should, as Namibians, come together and take pride in the diversity that we have and the different cultures. And City of Windhoek, once when we developed their tourism attraction, we called this the City of Many Faces, because in the capital so many different language groups and cultural groups come together, and that's what makes Namibia unique. And right in the beginning, I told you about the challenge that we have in fighting the competition internationally in terms of the unique selling points. And our people, our culture is what is most unique to this country. And when I speak to some of the tourists that come here and say, yes, I had a lot of brochures and I knew about what I was to expect when coming to Namibia, the desert and the big Atlantic Ocean and the savannas and your wildlife, but it was your people that amazed me the most. Yeah. And that's, I think, what we sometimes underestimate. It's the us, and it's the diversity of us sitting here that makes Namibia a very interesting country to visit, and the people's engagement. That's what we should do, and it does not need to be a visit to an expensive lodge, and that's what we always make a mistake at as well. Namibia's tourism product is not only the expensive lodges that you would find on YouTube and the influencers going and visiting. We've got Dunvillion just next door, where you can actually see giraffe and zebra, etc., and it doesn't cost a lot of money to experience that.
Just go there for a day visit.
Exactly.
Right.
So a lot of tourism activity is engaging with people, and I think we can do that here. In the City of Windhoek, we can have a tourism experience, but be interested in sort of getting to know your own country. I think that if we all as Namibians take that vow, that we say once a year I will make myself a tourist and go and see what the other culture is doing or what the other town is doing, and share ideas. I think that's where we enrich our tourism product.
Very good. Phil, in a few seconds, just give us the 411. What is being arranged for World Tourism Day? Where is it taking place?
So just to officially just announce, the World Tourism Day is taking place in Gurenkuru this year. Tomorrow, there will be some trainings or capacity building initiatives for the local communities in the area. This is just to look at product development, packaging, branding, and of course finding that unique selling point for your products. And as we said earlier, culture and heritage is one of the strongest assets that some of these regions have, like Kavango West, Kavango East, Zambezi, and so on. So although these communities are not in the mainstream tourism business, they have these assets that they can bring forth to the tourism sector. So there will be some local artists performing in Gurenkuru just to draw people, because these are some of the sought after artists, local artists in the area. So communities in Gurenkuru and surrounding areas, please make your way to town, to the stadium, Expo Stadium. and see what is happening there. The tourism officials will be creating awareness about the World Tourism Day. And at the official day, of course, we'll have maybe the mayor of Kurenkuru saying something, maybe a welcoming remark. We'll have the director of tourism. There, I'm not so sure about the other leadership from the ministry. But we have all these people. There are some statements from the governor in the region. So everything is happening, it's really happening in the Kurenkuru area. So tourism awareness will be created, and will leave memories that will be long lasting, and hopefully communities to participate in the tourism mainstream business.
Very good. There you have it, Namibia, the discussion that we have with the experts right here. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, that brings us to the end of today's live broadcast. My name is Romeo Myunda, and it has been a pleasure being in your company. Until next time, goodbye.